Hey guys, I know a lot of you watch my channel because you've got the itch and you're looking to make your next knife purchase, which I totally get because I'm also a knife guy. So I invite you to open the description of the video you're watching right now and click here on my Amazon store where I've compiled some of my very favorites. As you can see, my most recommended knives and my favorite budget knives are right at the top, but there's also categories like knife maintenance, pocket clips, knife storage and display, and then a whole bunch of knives by popular brands. There's something down here for everybody, so make sure you take a look. Thanks. What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to do with you guys. This is the CRKT and Ruger knives Incendiary. I'll let you guys take a look at the box here. It's an interesting collaboration here between Ruger knives and CRKT. Very cool. This is actually a Robert Carter design, which is why some of you will probably look at this and go, that blade looks really familiar to a custom knife that you reviewed a while ago. And yeah, I think Robert Carter absolutely has a distinct look with a lot of his blades, and this knife absolutely captured it. This was sent to me by the Apex pass run group, so by extension the manufacturers themselves. As usual, I'll try not to let that affect my review, but it should be pretty easy considering I don't get to keep it. If you are enjoying my daily knife uploads and you'd like to support me, you can follow the link in the description to my Patreon. Get your hands on some cool stickers, and at the same time gain access to my once-a-week Patreon exclusive content. The support would absolutely mean the world to me. Let's go ahead and get a measurement on this guy. From tip to scale, we're looking at, it's like right at 7 inches. Blade length coming in right at 3. Actual cutting edge coming in at 2.75. Nice, not what I'd call small, but nice medium-sized knife. Let's go ahead and do a size comparison, or some size comparisons. Starting off here with the Ontario Rat 1. Rat 1 coming in at 8.6 inches overall. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall. And last but not least, the Spyderco Para 3. Para 3 coming in at 7.25 inches overall. So you can see there it's closest in overall length to the Spyderco Para 3. How about the action on this guy? Surprisingly, the action is actually, it's phenomenal. And mainly because, by the way, guys, this is what I would consider to be an ultra budget knife. This is hyper inexpensive. You can look right down in my description and find a direct link to this knife if you want to check it out for yourself. But yes, hyper inexpensive knife. Now, this knife, when I say incredible action, I mean the relationship between the detent and this thumb disc, which traditionally is not a deployment mechanism or method or deployment thing, that I would say is easy compared to the other things that are out there. About caught myself there. But because of the positioning of it, it's just right in the right place. It actually feels really satisfying to deploy this knife, and it makes a nice sound. Ready? Feels nice. As you can see there, I can do the reverse flick, whether I'm using my fingernail or the meat of my thumb or a finger, it really doesn't matter. You can do it both ways. It's nice. Now, part of that smoothness I found out is the fact that, like many CRKTs, it is running on nylon. Normally, I would complain about that, and a lot of you are like, you hypocrite, you love Hinder knives, and the Gen 4s were on nylon forever, and those were over $400, and you're, yeah, I recognize the benefits of PB, or phosphor bronze washers and bearings over nylon, and I'll admit I prefer those 100%. On a knife of this price, I just don't care. I'm just totally okay. It would be cool if it was phosphor bronze, but I just don't care. So it's not that big of a deal. This is not, it's not a fall shut action. You just kind of have to shake it shut. But again, that's not something that I really expect on a knife of this price. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check here. Get out my handy dandy WIA bit selector and WIA magnetic driver, 2 items that are very inexpensive and extremely recommendable. You can find them down in my Amazon store. Just pull up the store, look for the category that says knife maintenance, and they should be pretty easy to find. I'm going to guess, as per usual, that the handle screws are T6. So let's go ahead and get out the T6. There it is right there. Plug her in. Give this a check here if we can focus. Yeah. T6, and the adjustment side of the pivot is on the other side, which is usually, by the way, this knife's made in China, usually is a T8 when the body screws are T8. Oh, actually, is it bigger? No, that's T8. I thought maybe it was going to be a little bigger. Not that that would really matter, but yeah, it's T8. So, okay, not that big of a deal. You guys know the drill. I don't like T6. I wish all T6 were T8 or bigger, but it's not really that big of a deal. So let's go ahead and talk about carry profile. This knife is not super thin, but it's also not super thick. Up against the Spyderco Para 3, you can see it's just a little tiny bit thicker. Blade stock thickness on this guy is also not massive. Coming in at, so we can pinch it right there at the, well, now wait a sec, is that really right? Because if that's the case, then I was way off. 150 thousandths. Let's try that again. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's try back here. Is that really? It's 150 thousandths? Let's go a third time just to be sure. Well, gosh, guys, I don't know what to say. I mean, this thing has been perfectly accurate for me, so I guess I'm forced to conclude that that's the case. Let's check thickness up against like the Spyderco PM2. I mean, okay, I guess. Let me check the calipers on the PM2 to make sure that we're accurate there. Yeah, 145 thousandths. Okay, so blade stock thickness on this guy is fairly thick, 150 thousandths. We're looking at an aluminum front scale and a steel lock side. So the combination of the steel lock side and the blade is what's going to make it a little bit heavy. Now, in terms of the actual profile, which is something that's a little more important to me than weight, unless weight starts to get outlandish, is, of course, you know, did I say it? Carry profile. Up against the Spyderco PM2 and Para 3, it's got them both beat in terms of length and height. It's just a little bit thicker, but, I mean, mass in your pocket, you know, total space in your pocket, it's really not taking up that much room. Let's go ahead and weigh it because it is a little bit chunkier than I think a lot of people would, you know, want to carry. But keep in mind, it's a budget frame lock. Those tend to be steel. It's coming in, okay, I mean, I thought it was going to be over 5 ounces, 4.8 ounces. Look, that's heavy, but, I mean, combined with the reasonable carry profile, it's not that bad. If you're somebody who likes to carry a FRN Para 3 or a Para 3 lightweight, excuse me, or a Benchmade bug out, this might be a little bit heavy for you. But for everybody else who's just wearing regular pants or doesn't really mind a knife that weighs a little bit more, especially considering, you know, how cheap this thing is, then yeah, you know, it's really just not going to bother you. Let's go ahead and talk about the anatomy of this knife. So we are looking at an aluminum front scale here. This keyhole pattern represents something that Robert Carter did on, or I think still does on a custom design, except that on the customs, they go all the way through, and on the keyholes here, on this guy, they don't. Normally, I don't like holes in the frame, but I honestly think I would have just preferred that either the entire front scale have nothing on it, or that those went all the way through. I don't know why, but it looks a little bit funny to me. It's not that big of a deal, though, so I can't complain too much. The blade, I gotta say, the blade is what makes this knife. This blade is awesome. It's very, very appealing. And here's the other thing. So on the custom, all the corners and things are pretty sharp, but I always give customs a pass because it's not all about utility with a super expensive custom knife, right? I mean, a lot of it is blood, sweat, and tears and sort of an art form that goes into it. And it's sort of, you know, that labor, that attention to detail, those micro polishings and the things outside of, you know, function and use, a lot of times with function and use being a base for the idea of it, right? Anyways, with a knife like this, I'm really happy that some of those spots that would otherwise be major hot spots, especially right here, are knocked down. This is very comfortable in here. There's no jimping really, but you're locked in. I would have appreciated a real choil here, perhaps. I mean, we've already lost some blade. You know, I mean, in terms of like actual cutting edge, you don't have a lot here already, considering there's a sharpening choil there. But I honestly would have just preferred a little bit more. This is comfortable. I think it would have been made truly excellent with the addition of a forward choil, but not everybody's going to agree with me, and you don't have to. In any case, the blade is just wonderful. One that definitely emphasizes strength. You have a flat that runs about 80–85% the length of the blade. This awesome, aggressive swedge coming off this harpoon notch right here. Drops down into a flat grind, and then the actual cutting edge, this is hollow ground down to the cutting edge. So this gets reasonably thin. It's not insanely thin, but it'll do the cutting. And then if you have to do some of the more aggressive type, you know, digging cuts or sort of pulling cuts, well, you've got a tip that is very unlikely to take critical damage. Absolutely. And you know, considering what it costs, I'm okay with the grinds on. I mean, they look okay. They're not absolutely perfect, but they're not nearly as wonky as I've seen on knives that cost way more. So I'm just not going to complain. Everything feels good. It doesn't feel like, you know, there was laziness or anything involved with the execution of this. You can see that the thickness is nicely carried out. So that's going to be a really durable tip. I appreciate the standard Ruger and CRKT logos right there. Not doing too much billboarding here. And then it says Incendiary Carter design. And then there's a little model number or serial number or something like that down there. No big deal. The thumb disc is one that is detachable and probably something that you could get, aftermarket ones made if you really wanted to, but it's just in the right spot. This is a knife that's actually kind of fun to play with. I gotta be honest. I mean, fidget factor is actually there, and I think the thumb disc is doing better than, even thumb studs or a hole would do for me for whatever reason. I mean, it's just in the right place on this knife, and it's fun to play with. So yeah, I don't have any issues. The black wash looks okay. I always prefer tumbled over black wash, but some people like that. It'll hide wear over time, and that's good. The scale here, the aluminum scale, it's exactly what I would expect. It's not a premium aluminum finish like something that you might see on a ProTech where it's got the hard coat anodizing, but it looks okay. I'm sure it'll scratch up and wear over time. Not that big of a deal. Aluminum is plenty durable. You can see back here, there is no real shouldering on the stop pin, but that's fine. You have a steel lock bar. You don't need the steel lock bar insert. What I'm saying is wear over time for the lock bar should be pretty normal. Nothing really slowing it down. Or nothing really, speeding it up, I guess. Like I said, I would have preferred that these keyholes go all the way through, but okay. Some people don't like that there's a chunk cut out of the front scale so that you can switch the pocket clip around. I just don't really care. I don't know why people get upset about that, but everybody's different. Some people don't like that, and it's a deal breaker for them. For me, it's not. I'm glad that I have the option, or that, well, not that I would need a left-handed knife, but I'm glad that left-handed people have the option, right, to switch the clip around. So that's fine. The fact that it's set into the handle means it's not going to wiggle around. There's not going to be play or anything. Very simple backspacer. I'm going to guess that's also aluminum, but it could be plastic. In any case, it's going to do its job. It's keeping the integrity of the knife intact, meaning you can't squeeze it and have it bend or anything. There's no milling or anything on the inside, which is part of the reason it's a little heavier than some people might expect. The pocket clip's okay. Like I said, it sort of sets into the handle. I don't like it when they dip like this and come straight out because it's just asking to be caught on something, and it will. Guys, if you're carrying this knife, guarantee it, that pocket clip will get caught on something and it'll bend out. Fortunately, I'm sure it's pretty easy to get a replacement clip. It couldn't be that expensive. It doesn't carry completely deep. It carries pretty deep. It's just not something that needs to be complained about. It's going to do its job. There is no lock bar insert on this guy, and there is no, well, actually, no, now hang on a sec here. I'm wrong. What am I running into? Hang on. There is an over travel stop. Let's take a look at the inside here. Sometimes I find out things about knives right in the middle of reviews. What is stopping that blade? Is there a little stop? That's interesting. Let's take a look into... Oh, there is. There it is right there. There's a Hinderer style LBS on the inside of this knife that's hidden. So there is a little over travel stop. I like that. I'm kind of bothered by frame locks of any price range that don't have some sort of stop because you can bend them out, and rebending it to get it to interact with the tang of the blade the way it did initially, that can be kind of a hassle, and you can also mess the blade up in a way that it's actually unsafe to use. So the disc solves a lot of problems. That's nice. That's kind of nice that it's there. There is actual contouring on the steel frame here, and that's nice because it kind of saves the knife from an unnecessary blocky feel, and it makes it comfortable. Ergonomics are great, except for that pocket clip because of the shape and the bill that sticks straight out. It's going to create a little bit of a hot spot. If you're just going to pull the knife out, make a quick cut, put it back in your pocket, you're going to be fine. And in terms of where my hands naturally want to fall, I can get my hands all the way around this. That thumb notch feels nice. If you're really going to bear down on it, do something where you have to really control the blade, right? That's nice. It's great. So, I mean, this is kind of a quick review. But again, here are the things that bothered me about this knife. T6 screws back, it's like I always say, it's like half the knives I review have T6 screws, so whatever. Runs on nylon. I wish it was phosphor bronze washers. I wish it had PB washers, but it doesn't, and I just don't care. Then the pocket clip, it'd be nice if it had more of a swoop, but it doesn't. And I wish that the front scale was just either completely plain or that the keyholes had holes in them. Right? These are all super minor complaints. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering who are still here. What's the blade steel? The blade steel is 8CR13 MOV. I don't have a problem with 8CR13 MOV. They're still using it on the Spyderco Tenacious, and that knife runs, you know, I think close to $50 sometimes on Blade HQ. I'm perfectly okay with that steel. You know, you charge me $100 for 8CR, or you charge me over 50 for 8CR, I'm kind of, there's some better stuff out there, right, for the money. I don't have a problem with it on this knife. I found this knife on Blade HQ for, it was like $25. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just let you guys know right now. This is a very recommendable knife. Absolutely. I'm going to be putting it on my most recommended budget knives, or my most recommended knives list. Also cheap knives I like, which is my budget knife list. And there is going to be a link right down at the top of the description where you can pick this up. It's just inexpensive and straightforward, and the little minor, you know, issues that it has are just not major enough for me not to recommend it. And some of the other things are just nitpicky aesthetic things, right? So I don't have a problem with this. Guys, that's going to be pretty much it for today. This was an interesting one. I'm hoping some of you guys pick this up because this is a great knife to just have around. You can beat on it and it'll probably just keep going. You know, it's not something that's meant to necessarily last a lifetime, but geez, you know, for the price, it's hard to say no. You know, it's kind of a cool knife just to sit around and play with. So anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this Metal Complex logo right here and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.